Thanks for joining us. My name is Charlie Otte. I'm with the uh, Entertainment Education Committee, and we're holding a roundtable about audio and music. And we're going to be exploring the creative use of audio in parks, attractions, commercials, movies, shows, any place where the emotional power of sound and music is used to create a response that doesn't rely on language and words. And it's the language of music really that brings us together around the world, many cultures, ideas, all of us that you'll hear from today. We've all spent time as musicians, engineers, folks who worked in the industry in different capacities, and I found that music and audio really mean a lot to us. Sometimes, like right now, words just seem to get in the way. As I'm listening, I'm hearing an echo. So sometimes words can confuse you, but music can speak through it all. Um, so it's a philosophic conversation we'll have about music, but it's also a technical one. We want to talk about how it all gets done, how it gets put together, what equipment's used, how things come together in parks and across the whole industry. Um, so we're going to be talking about everything from composition to licensing through equipment, installation operations. We have a great panel of guests here to discuss their work in themed entertainment. Um, how, when is music created, sound, who are the creators, what kind of technology we use. We'll explore the use of original scoring, the idea of licensing. Do you want to use existing material, or you're going to, make it up, or have some sort of combination of those two things? And other creative ways that people produce music, found sounds, and the sound effects that create an environment that makes something real. I'm going to listen to how sound effects and sound design come to create environments. And at the end of this session today, we'll look at the process that is really we'll abbreviatedly look at the process for a successful completion to a project. It's high-level stages, concept, production, post-production, and of course the install, on-site mix, turnover, things like that. But right now I want to introduce our fabulous panel and let them say a word or two about who they are. First of all, ex-Universal audio engineer, sound designer, musician, Howard Schlieper.
Hey, Charlie, thanks for having me on this panel. Very cool. No, quick. Uh, I, for the last 10 years, I worked at Universal. Um, I was assistant director overseeing the audio, video, and projection design and installation for Epic Universe and also the Universal Beijing Resort. So today, I'll be focusing on the hardware side of creating a technical palette that supports the creative intent and allows the creative and media teams, such as all the talented people on this call and probably all the participants listening, to be able to do their magic. So, that's an important piece from where I work on things. So, a ton can be said about all the hardware side and how it applies to music and sound, but for the purpose of today's roundtable, I'll be very, I'll try to be very concise, brief, and respectful of time, just kind of touch high level on a few key elements so that everybody can get onto a lot of other cool things besides just the, geeky AV hardware, which is where I live.
Cool. Thank you, Howard. Um, Also, we have from Audio by the Bay, Bob Wackerman and Joe Pileggi. Bob? Bob, you're muted.
First thing about an audio guy, huh? Hey, everybody. I'm Bob Wackerman. I'm a principal music producer. I like that Howard loved that. Principal music producer for Audio by the Bay. I will be focusing more on the music side of things. Joe will talk about his side besides music. But thrilled to be here with this exceptional panel, and always fun to work with old friends, and really looking forward to getting into all this.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. My name's Joe Pileggi. I'm the president of Audio by the Bay, as well as audio engineer, mixer, and sound designer. I've been doing this for 20 plus years and just really appreciate being invited to this panel and look forward to sharing my experiences. I'm going to focus a little bit on sound design and on-site integration.
And then we also have Brian Yessian, Mark Chu from Yessian Music.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Charlie. It's great to be here with you all. I'm Brian Yessian. I am one of the partners and chief creative officer of Yessian Music. Yessian Music is a company that has studios in New York and Detroit with teams in LA and Europe as well. So we're going to be talking a bit to you today about, we're going to take you through a couple case studies of some projects and talk about, I guess, the holistic approach that we take with sound and audio from original composition, licensing into sound design and on-site integration. So with me is Mark.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Charlie and Brian. I'm Mark Chu from Yessian Music, and I'm the senior music composer there, and have been with the company since 2003. And multi-instrumentalist, singer-songwriter, basically anything music-wise that goes through Yessian, I'm handling it in some regard, and be happy to talk to you guys about the production and the composing aspect of what we do.
Cool. Thank you. And I think we're going to start talking really from the playback side, maybe hear from Howard. Going to help us understand how the facility and equipment can make such a huge difference in what we hear, why it's so important. Maybe we'll get in a little bit about even the space itself, how that can affect things, you know, what the actual audio environment might be that we're going to try and affect. So take it away, Howard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. You know, much like everybody else on this call, I started as a musician, grew up lots of music around the house, started playing bass when I was 12. I think Bob even started before that, way before that. And then playing clubs when I was
Actually,
16
Howard, could you
and writing
pause
music
2
and recording in
seconds, Howard?
studios by the time I was yeah.
Is there an echo for Howard? Is it, or is it everything okay? You guys are fine? Okay.
Yep.
We're good to go. Thank you. You're
Good. Remove the echo from my cord. That was like that, you know, it was a plug-in, but yeah, no, it basically, I have a bachelor's degree in audio technology. You know, my love of music got me into the engineering side of it also. And there I studied a lot of the physics of sound, the physics of why instruments, you know, why bass sounds different guitar because of the, you know, bigger strings and mass and size and dimension, and learn about all the physics of, you know, speaker cabinets and the electronics of, you know, sticks and speaker design, mixers, amplifiers, how a whole studio works, all the different types of synthesizers, et cetera. So that was a great kind of matching of the technical with my creative interest in playing music. So I first started designing AV and projection working at Soundalux years ago. And Soundalux did a lot of cool projects. I learned a lot there and got to work with a lot of great people. And one of the key things there is Soundalux had both a creative and media division and a systems design and integration division. And I was on the systems design piece, but I learned right away that for themed entertainment projects to be successful, that both the creative and the media need to be lockstep with the hardware design and the integration throughout the process, early on, all the way through completion, or it's just going to be a problem. So with that said, it all starts whether I was a vendor or working for Universal, the things I'm going to say kind of apply to just about every themed entertainment project. And I'll try to be brief and just touch some highlights so we could get to a lot of other important things, but it all really starts with coordination. And might I add, some of the projects I did when I was at Sound Deluxe or as a vendor, where I was a consultant. I was also a consultant with Polysonics and Cerami in DC and New York. I worked on things like Terminator 2 3D, Revenge of the Mummy, Waterworld, Men in Black, Fear Factor Live, Experience Music Project in Seattle, which is now called Mopop, Washington Nationals baseball stadium, and like an HBO Atmos screening room in New York, plus a bunch of interactive projects for like the Disney cruise ships and Disney's test track at Epcot. So um, all this kind of really helped in what I was doing for Epic and Beijing, being the vendor. And so whether you're a vendor, whether you're the owner, it really all starts with coordination and collaboration. This is such a team effort. You need great people, great vendors, great experience, talent, and all passion and dedication. And it really needs to all come together. And in our world, it starts with, okay, we're going to do this thing. They need to get the GCs and the architects going long before we start talking to specific AV vendors and media vendors, because they got it. There's a lot of heavy lifting going on and a lot of things that take time there. So what typically happens, we got to start coming up with facility inputs as soon as possible. Before, sometimes I've been asked, whether as a vendor or for Universal, hey, I need early facility inputs, and it's like, I don't even have a rendering or a drawing. What are we doing here? And so you get a hold of all the information you can. You start going, okay, based on what I know so far, where will I need power, equipment, speakers, electrical, cable, conduit, and you start laying out the initial impact of the facility. Where will I need tap things? Where will I need backing, et cetera, et cetera. And this all gets fleshed out throughout the process of the design and gets detailed out. Vendors get brought on. It gets taken to a much more detailed level. But it really starts with that collaborative building of relationships and coordination, because you're going to need to work closely with all of these people and rely on their expertise all the way through to the finish line. So the coordination with the media in particular really starts with the creative intent track lists, design drawings, what media playback units are we doing or using. And I can remember things like first sitting down many years ago on the Universal Beijing Resort, and going, hey, the first time we met Audio by the Bay was, okay, we sat in a room with the media team and Audio by the Bay, and we said, well, here's a plan view of the park and what each land is, and an early blush at where we're going to have park-wide audio, and an early blush of zoning layouts, and also track lists, preliminary track lists. And it was all meant to kind of start getting the whole ball rolling. So as you do that, you continue to coordinate, to regularly meet, update all the designs, flesh out all the facility infrastructure required. And as the design, the architects, the A&E teams, and the contracts, the general contractors are building, designing and building the bricks and mortar of it. Then in parallel, all the creative is being designed. And in our hardware world, we gotta lock the two together, so that if there's a creative intent for an attraction or whatever, the park, a ride, we need to make sure that we're capturing where the creative intent is going to need the hardware support from us. So, early on, we have to know, okay, do we have a dark ride, a theater show, roller coaster, parade, lagoon show, retail spaces, nightclub, outdoor stage, a park-wide area development, or all the above? It's a park. So we start working through the creative elements. We start mapping things out early on, and then we just detail and flesh things out. And then we just, every of design gets more and more detailed. We got to make sure we get all the information to the field, so that whoever is coordinating with the architects and the engineers and also ultimately getting to the general contractors can get built. Because at the end of the day, we need to have the physical construction match what the creative intent needs. And that's a very challenging process of never-ending coordination, picking up changes, making updates to the design, making sure those designs get all the way out to the field. It's classic that you go coordinate and you're like, these are drawings from last year. What are you doing? You know, and you got to keep fighting to make sure all the right information gets to the field. Um, and then as a designer, you're setting out your typical audio toolkit. You know, I got some drawings here. I know what the creative intent is. I got an idea where I'm going to need different types of things going on. And I need to know, okay, where can I put speakers? Where will the guests be? Let me start putting a speaker toolkit together, you know, where let's say where the guests will be, and know where do I need consistent coverage, where do I need a point source or localization of sound, and how far do I need to direct the sound. You know, BGM, we might want like an even coverage sound, and a point source of very localized, bring your attention to that particular that audio source. Or we may be supporting, say, visual media, the audio from it. So there's a plethora of things throughout a park, an attraction that you need to step through, starting from the queue all the way into the main show, through the exit, retail, what have you, and area development. So you build your toolkit. You typically go to trade shows, and every year you're listening at Infocom to everybody's speakers. You know, who's the best sounding, you know, whatever tools I need, the toolkit. You know, let me look at ceiling speakers, you know, surface mounted or flown speakers, line arrays, subwoofers, and landscape speakers, and different sizes and form factors to fit different things. Do I need something on board? Do I need something off board? Do I need to project the sound far? Do I need, am I close to the guests? Am I, you know, am I on a vehicle? So all that needs to come in, and you got to create your toolkit and start mapping out and coordinating with the with the media team, what they're going to have. You know, share with them often, here's our drawings, here's our system, here's where your channels are, here's ultimately where your speakers will be. And inevitably, no matter how many times you coordinate, you'll come into a meeting and go, hey, that all changed, you know, and somebody will go, no, we moved everything and this scene got cut, and no, we're getting rid of that, and no, we're going to change it. And like, you know, so you constantly make sure you're keeping current with whatever changes, and everybody's on. Okay, does media know about it? Okay, does the you know, electrician know about it? All that kind of stuff, all the way through to the end. It's a never-ending challenge. And as we're designing the systems, we have to keep things in mind like headroom. You know, basically headroom is where in an audio system, an amplifier, a speaker, a design system, you need to not setting up all the signal flowing staging of where I need which particular channels. You got to make sure you have enough headroom in the system, say whether fire, whether it's a speaker output, even headroom, say storage space with, oh, I think I need 50 tracks and I ended up needing 75 tracks, whatever. You always make sure you have a, you know, when you're on site and the executive says, I need you to make it louder. You don't want to look at amplifiers and they're all in clip and speakers on the edge of blowing and they're distorted. You want to go, yeah, no problem. I got room to bring it up a little bit. And systems will just perform better if they have headroom built in, that you're not pushing them to their limits, because there will be peaks and transients and big show moments you want to be able to capture and not squash and limit. So you always want to look at the specs, look at what you're doing. And I always upsize slightly. I always assume I'm going to need a little more oomph. You can turn it down. It's easier to back off than to wish you had more. And then I know people talk about microphones a lot and placement. You know, there's a lot of mics out there, different applications, instruments, vocal, you know, wired, wireless, a lot of different coverage, cardioid, hypercardioid, omnidirectional coverage patterns. But always use the right tool for the job, and make sure you're always keeping the microphones and the speakers in orientation that hopefully they're off axis from each other. You know, if you have a microphone with a certain pickup pattern, hopefully wherever the speakers are, especially high output ones, are on the part of that pickup pattern that is the least sensitive. So you're less likely to get feedback. A lot of systems, you set them up right, you shouldn't have feedback. A lot of speaker types are resilient to that, but just something to keep in mind. I'm just kind of going through some highlights so we don't get too hung up here.
Yeah, tell us, since you're going through
Acoustics
highlights,
is
Howard.
huge. It's that
No, I was going to
yeah,
say,
go
since you
ahead.
were going through highlights, I know you worked on Terminator
Go
years
ahead.
ago. I remember you just talking about, you know, I mean, it's way back there, but you know, it set a precedent, and then a lot of things developed from there. I mean,
Sure.
anything you could tell us about that?
Oh, sure. I mean, that's that's kind of a no-brainer. How often do you get to work on something like a Terminator? Back in its day, I think it was one of the, leading audio systems in the world. Um, and basically what it was, I was at Soundalux then, and my project was Soundalux Hollywood. And basically, it was a 23.1 system, which now doesn't sound like as much now. I think others on this team will talk about systems even more channels than that. But in its day, it was very cutting edge because it was a built venue for high impact sound, and they really wanted over the top experience. So what was unique about that is, I was involved in the design of the system, and Hollywood was based on Orlando with a lot of updates. Again, we added more headroom in the subwoofers, we added more output in the subwoofers, and we did a lot of different things that took it to another level. And I remember writing the matrix, all that, and the key was um, what we'll talk about throughout the course of the thing. Not only with a great system, it was literally 119,000 watts of power, 23.1. We had a site mix team that was unbelievable. Soundalux, Orlando was great. Hollywood, we leveraged the folks out of South Hollywood that make motors all day. My AV system is good. I got PC here, we're all good. And they come in, we have a 40 platform. They have 8 Pro Tools rigs, 32 D88s, tons of you name it, the stems, the Foley, the dialogue, the music, everything. And it was amazing to watch them, like the others folks on this team, do their magic. It was like the Media Matrix handled the design, the tuning, crossover, things like, and basically I came up with a I jokingly call it sketch. I made 24 plan views of the theater layout, the speaker layout, and I'd color code each one. Channel 1, what comes out of channel 1 goes to left screen, left speaker cluster, and this delay matrix overhead. Channel 2 goes to the left screen center and this delay matrix overhead. And literally each of those channels had its own sheet representing the sound is going to come out of these speakers. And I shared that with all the media folks and it was cool. They were like pitching explosions and layering all this. They were doing their magic. The key is they needed that palette to do their stuff. So it was an amazing experience sitting there, and we were a pass through, but they were doing all kinds of cool stuff. So that's probably what you were talking about. That's a pretty amazing experience. I'm sure plenty of people on this call have done a lot of cool things too.
Okay, Howard,
So anyway, the acoustics is something I don't want. I'm sorry. I don't. You're going to cut me off.
Well, I'm going to cut you. Cut you in a
You need to
second
cut
here.
me off?
Go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll let somebody else talk.
Sure. I'll wrap in that acoustics is a really important item. When I worked at design consultants that did acoustics, basically your acoustics engineer is your best friend. Your consultant will come in and look at the shapes of the room, the finishes, help design the room to meet the right reverberation criteria, reduce delay, slapbacks, echoes, things like that. And that is huge for the sound system. You could test sound system in the world and it will sound like garbage. in a bad acoustic environment. You can take a pretty okay sound system, if designed and tuned and set correctly, and sound pretty good in a really good acoustic environment. So they really go hand in hand on what the listener experiences for intelligibility, for localization, and not being distracted like you're in some gymnasium or something, you know. So I think that's an important thing to always consider and always fight for these elements to make sure the design is met. So I'll shut up for now. Along the way, I don't want to hog everybody's time. Does that meet your needs for Charlie?
Thank you, Howard. You're fabulous. Thank you. And
Cool.
now we're going to turn it over and hear some other things from Brian and Mark. Hear a little bit from the vendor side about how music gets made, how sound design is done, and got a few examples of some of the work from Yessian Music. So, Brian, it's all yours.
Great. Okay, here we go. Thank you, everyone. See a lot of familiar faces and names on the Zoom today, so this is great. So just to give you a little history about who we are. So Yessian Music was actually founded in 1971. This is our 54th year in business. Founded by my father, who was a jingle writer in the 70s, 80s, early 90s. And that's how our company was really started, is in the world of jingles and TV commercials. And over the years, we've done a lot of big jingles that you might have heard of. Think Ford First, What Would You Do for a Klondike Bar, etc. And I actually started my career in the world of performance. I'm a classical clarinet player. I went to music conservatory in Austria, where I studied to be playing in orchestras, and that's what I did for some time. My father actually told me, "Don't get involved in this business. It's too much of a roller coaster. You never know when it's going to be up, when it's going to be down. So just stay away." So I kind of had this path of music performance, and I was interning for him one summer, and I just got hooked. I love the fast-paced nature of the business and incorporating music with media and how those two worlds kind of collided. So initially, I really started off in the world of creating music for advertising and working with our teams in the world of ad agencies and special events. About 20 years ago, we got a project in for a museum. Someone asked me, actually my mentor in this industry, Anita Doherty, who is a media producer at Jack Rouse Associates, asked if we've ever done music for longer format films in museums. And I said, well, sure, we do lots of different types of media. We could do that. And that was kind of our first foray into the world of experiences and themed entertainment. So have never looked back since. It's one of our favorite sandboxes to play in when it comes to creating music in sound design and mix integration. So over these years, we've really developed that part of our company to get pretty deep in some amazing projects around the world, from Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi, Universal Studios, Disney, parks across China and the Middle East and all over the globe. So we're really working in a lot of different types of industries around the globe. And before I go too far into maybe a couple case studies, so we do want to show a couple things that we've been involved in, and Mark's going to get into some of the production aspect of what that is. But I want to give Mark a chance to kind of let everyone know how he got involved in this industry, because he's got a unique story as well.
Hey everyone, thanks Brian. Like I said before, I've been with Yessian since 2003. I've kind of like I do have a unique story in that I didn't go to music school or anything like that. My background was I started with violin and then taught myself how to play guitar at age 13, and I've been obsessed with music ever since. In my younger years, early 2000s, I was making house music for an EDM label in the UK. And I was doing that and DJing and didn't know anything about composing. When I thought about composing, I thought that was like John Williams or like jingles and stuff like that. Until one day I heard a car commercial that had an EDM for their soundtrack. And I was thinking, oh man, I could do that. So I Googled like who makes music for car commercials. And they said music houses. There was a list of music houses. And I remember I bought one of those CD things, CD packs with 100 CDs, and I sent them to 100 different music houses, and only one of them wrote me back, which was Yessian. And they were like, "Hey, let's see what you could do." This CD was just three like of my music examples. It was a very unprofessional demo, but I think Yessians heard something in it, and they gave me a shot. And the very first commercial that they tasked me to do was for the U.S. Navy, and I won that job, and I've been with Yessian ever since. From you know, mainly doing commercials at first, but Brian had the foresight back, early when we started to kind of pivot into experiential stuff too. And so I'm doing a lot more of that these days, and I think that's where the most exciting music is coming from, because you're not confined to a 30 or a 60 or genres. Even you could do music that's never been heard before. And I'll let Brian go with some of our examples.
And we often get that brief too. Can you create something that's never been heard before?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is always fun. So yeah, one of the projects that we really had a great time working on this year was for the USA Pavilion in Osaka, Japan, for the World Expo in Osaka. Mark was our lead composer on that and developing all the songs. The really unique thing about this project, it was a completely song-driven project. So we partnered with BRC on this. Christian Lachelle and Brian Smith were kind of our creative leads and directors that really had the foresight to kind of think about how can we create a music-driven experience that is all song-related and really leaning into our audience, which is a primarily Japanese audience for the expo, even though it is USA Pavilion and there are so many pavilions there, we really wanted to connect with that Japanese audience. So Mark was tasked to kind of create a J-pop, K-pop type music idea, but not only just a one-off song, but a series of songs in very varying styles that took you through the entire experience. So I thought maybe, Mark, I'll start to play I'll play the case study first to give everyone an overview of what the project is, and then we can dive in a little bit deeper with how you created that. So I'm going to attempt to share, and hopefully this all works.
The USA Pavilion at the 2025 World Expo in Osaka, Japan is filled with custom musical scores, sound design, and original songs that feature Spark, our guide and star singer. The songs highlight technical innovation, travel, and exploration with a unifying musical theme in 3 languages, Japanese, English, and Mandarin. With over 10,000 visitors each day, guests of the pavilion all leave humming the catchy melody that's now available on Spotify and other streaming services.
Welcome to the USA Pavilion. I'm your host, Spark. Together, think of all the ideas we'll share with each other. Together, we can change the world if we dream.
Hey, Spark, can you help our friends imagine what's possible when we create together?
We'll
and liftoff.
Bye-bye. またね。
Okay. So that's our project for the USA Pavilion. Thank you. So I wanted to have Mark maybe explain a little bit about our process of creation for that, because this was a very unique project where not only were we creating a pop song, a J-pop, K-pop type song, but we also had to do it in multiple languages and really think about the cross-cultural work that we were doing on a project like this and integrating and working with the right types of people in various countries. So I'll let Mark kind of talk about his process in creation there.
Okay, so when we were first of all, this project took a year to complete, and it turned into like over 100 minutes of original music, and all of that started with creating. We were tasked to create just one melody, like an 8-bar melody, and have this approved by the Department of State and our clients. And this melody had to be universal enough, but have like a strong J-pop, K-pop foundation, but be, something that was catchy and earwormy. And so I wrote an 8-bar melody just with a piano, and we had to get that approved. Once we got that approved with all the many levels of the Department of State, we were then given, key words that we would use in this song. It was originally supposed to be just like a song length, and then it would kind of adapt for all these different rooms that you enter. And so this song, we then got all these key words that we had to use. I mean, stuff like nanotechnologies, we had to rhyme that with something. And eventually we'd have to get all these lyrics and the melodies and the choruses approved, and then find our vocalist who needed to be a dual citizen of United States and Japan, and be able to sing in both languages fluently. And luckily, with a lot of our vocal collaborators, we found that artist who did an amazing job. And then we also did it in Mandarin as well, with another vocalist. But this J-pop song, it eventually evolved into many different genres of American music. It has a hip hop area. It goes into rock. It goes into New Orleans jazz, and it just runs the gamut of kind of encapsulating the U.S. and how multicultural and diverse it is.
Yeah, and like Mark was saying, there were some real restrictions on this, especially working for the U.S. Department of State and American citizenship. So we'd gone through a whole casting process on this, found some great singers, and then we were kind of given the news that, oh, by the way, they all have to be American citizens. And so we said, okay, this is a whole new level of searching and casting voices. So we were still looking for singers in Japan that happen to have dual citizenship, and we obviously found that with our singer on here, Sincere, who is half American, half Japanese, and it worked out great. And she's a pretty big TikTok star, Instagram star in Japan. And but then they came to us and said, oh, and also we feel like we're going to have a pretty good number of people coming from mainland China, so we want to do this entire project now in Mandarin. So again, we had to do the same casting process where we were looking for Chinese American singers, and we again found a great singer. We had a Chinese vocal producer that wrote all of our lyrics in China for us, and we did the same thing in Japan. We worked with, with a great team there of vocal casting agents, as well as a vocal producer and translators to make sure we were getting everything as accurate as possible. From there, and through the Department of State, it would have to go through translation approvals from the U.S. Department of State and the embassies in each of those countries, getting approvals in both Mandarin and Japanese. So there were multiple layers, and I'm surprised. And like we were talking about the other day, we did this across 2 different administrations for the U.S. government too, which was a whole nother kind of odd kind of approach in this whole project. But it was a lot of challenges, but we really just found great partners, and it was really kind of a global collective of us all working on this project together. I use the word together because that's we heard that word a lot, and it's great. Like, the response has been great. Unfortunately, this is the last week of the expo. I think it's just closing down right now. It's been open for 6 months. It's hard to see that one go away because it was so popular. I think it was the most popular pavilion in the expo this year and won some great awards for it too. So we were just really happy to be a part of such a musically driven and music centric project, because those don't come along very often. And when music is really driving the entire story and the entire message for a project like this. So that was pretty exciting. And in this case, all of those visuals kind of followed what the music was doing, which was really exciting for us as well. Another kind of aspect we want to touch on. Oh, go ahead. Oh, fine. Okay, quick. We're gonna go quick here. So I wanted to show one other case study quickly, because one of the things that's really interesting that we get to be involved in is creating sound and music for very interactive projects. This is another project that Mark was heavily involved in creating the music side for, but it's for a project we did for a brand engagement with Schweppes. And rather than give you too much of an overview here, I'm just going to play that for you because the case study really kind of explains what we did. But this is a case where we were working with game developers and integrating audio into a gaming environment and using game. It was a program similar to Unity. It was not Unity or Unreal, but it was a program similar that was custom created for this project, and using music as a driving force to pull people to a secret concert location. So I'm going to play that for you too, because it'll really give you a good overview of what we did for this.
In South Africa, 73% of people wear headphones to avoid social interaction. Schweppes is a brand that believes socializing is essential. So to shake people out of their numbness, we created a never-before-seen audio experiment. The social sound.
Getting people to navigate using sound was a new challenge for us.
One of the biggest challenges we had as audio designers for this experience was really the essence of the project itself. How do you guide a guest or a user to find a location only using an audio experience?
What if headphones could lead you to a secret celebration in the heart of the city?
When people tried to hide behind their headphones, we intercepted with an Insta Live of award-winning Amapiano sensation Daliwanga.
Daliwanga here, just touched down Cape Town. Come join me at the Schweppes party. I'm on my way there now.
Inviting you to an exclusive concert. And the only way to find the secret location was to follow the music.
That was really a combination of processes that we came up with in real time that would give the user a sense of how far it was away, which direction it was coming from, and make it all feel real, like it's coming from the city that they were walking through.
With one tap, we turned every pair of headphones into a sonic GPS. Your smartphone location was continuously synced with a spatial audio experience. For the first time, we made audio react just like a GPS, calculating the safest walking route to the secret location. Solely using music, you intuitively knew where to turn left, right, or even go back.
To enhance the experience and give people a cinematic feel, we meticulously deconstructed Daliwanga's track into stems. We sweetened that all with extra layers of sound that then built on top of each other as the listener got closer to the secret concert location.
As the music gets louder, to your left, to your right, you follow that, and I'm telling you, it's amazing. We started with creating an audio signal flow diagram for how the audio should be laid out, and the programming team started by laying that infrastructure. We were then able to simulate the experience right outside the doors of our studio. Brian, Jeff, or myself would go out, test the experience, write down mix notes or any tweaks or changes we had to make to the files, and we'd come back in and actually apply those changes through code ourselves or collaborate with the software engineering team to apply those changes.
By using audio in an innovative way, Schweppes made headphones go from canceling noise to making noise.
What really sets this experience apart from other spatial audio experiences, through this singular guest experience, everybody had their own path, right? But after that, they all guided themselves to the same location where it brought people together instead of keeping them in their own world.
The social sound. The first audio immersive experience, reminding you to live as you were born. Social.
So that's gives you a little overview of that project. You know, it's a great project to showcase and to be able to work on, because it's really it's this combination of technology and what we do in our craft of creating music and sound design, and really showing how we can utilize technology in unique ways to bring people together, to immerse people in different experiences. And the amazing thing was that all 200 guests made it to the location on their own, solely by audio. There was no guidance throughout the city, and it was in the middle of Cape Town, South Africa. So it was a good 1.5 mile walk to find the location, all guided by audio, which is pretty cool. But on projects like this, there's so many ways that we can utilize this type of technology, whether it's in a museum experience, a theme park, really any type of experience, and it could be for brand or for entertainment. So something like that is just it's an exciting project to be a part of, and you know, happy to share more as we go along.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. And I don't know how if anybody else out there was actually listening on headsets. I mean, I was listening on headsets to that, and it was great getting the experience of where I was supposed to turn and where I was supposed to go. And if I'd been walking around Cape Town, I'm sure I would have not been lost. So thank you very much. So we're going to move on now and hear also about production from two of our other guests, Bob Wackerman and Joe Pileggi from Audio by the Bay, are going to tell us a little bit about their process and kind of a different company style, but all in the same industry. So take it away, Bob and Joe.
Great. Thank you, Charlie. And thank you, everyone. And so Audio by the Bay, a little bit about us. We're a music production and audio production company. We've been around for over 30 years now and creating soundtracks, sound design, and audio integration for theme parks, live performances, and immersive entertainment. And although we're based in Anaheim, but our work takes us worldwide. We provide original composition, recording, mixing, voiceover, sound effects, you name it, anything that needs to be made to make an audio experience. And we have a client base that is all around the world. And, you know, we just have a passion for music, and our mission is always just to deliver innovative and memorable sound experiences to people. We love what we do here. And I'm going to turn it over to Bob now to talk a little bit more about how he got into it and how we do our original music production.
Hey, everybody. Thank you very much for joining this. And thank you to TEA and this amazing panel. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with everybody. So since Howard ratted me out about when I started playing bass, I'll go down this road. I come from a very musical family. I think my first words, my dad was a band director. Instead of mom and dad, it was probably C, E, G, B flat. You know, my dad's going major 7 chord, you know, minor 7 chord, sorry. Chord, major 7 B. Anyway, so I started when I was 5, and he started me on classical lessons. And then later I got into jazz lessons as well. All that experience led me to an early touring career. When I was 19, I started just a few of them. I started playing with Maynard Ferguson's band, touring I went on to join Rick Springfield's band near the end of his heyday in the 80s. Then ended up as the last bass player for the amazing Henry Mancini, which all of those guys gave, that all those artists were such a different genre. It gave me quite a perspective on how music touches people in various genres, various ways, but they all connect and they all engage, which was very interesting to me. From there, my original goal when I was a child was to be a student musician, which I went on to do, and I was an LA student musician for quite a while. When I was 30, I was getting a lot more interested in what it would be like to start producing music and being on the other side of the glass. When an amazing opportunity came up to be the Disneyland manager of the Disneyland music department. There I met an amazing composer, orchestrator who became my mentor named Bruce Healy. He did all the themes in the original score to the Disneyland Fantasmic and a whole ton of other stuff through his career. He taught me how to budget. He taught me how to budget for orchestration, for orchestra. He taught me how to prep for sessions. He taught me how to deal with the AFM unions, SAG-AFTRA, all the different complexities of that, and also taught me how to listen, which was an important thing for anybody that might want to get into this. You play a mix and you go, what do you think? It goes, well, you just say, it sounds great. It goes, well, what are you hearing? What do you, I mean, it's a whole skill to learn how to listen, as everybody else on this panel knows. After 3 years of that, there was an opportunity that Disneyland and a lot of the other parts of the company was doing a lot of their extracurricular stuff, or just stuff for the different parts of the business. Like the Disneyland Music Department was doing all the openings for Buena Vista Pictures. They were doing the opening of Pocahontas in Central Park and Hunchback at the Superdome, and all the Tokyo stuff. And it was a blast. And there was a kind of a restructure where their company was going to focus more on Disneyland. If you worked for Disneyland, they weren't going to support all this other stuff. So I kind of went, hey, we can do this. So I went and started the music production side of Otte by the Bay, and we almost got like a fairy tale kind of deal where we got recommended to do a lot of the work right out of the gate that we had been doing that Disneyland didn't want to do at the time. A lot of times these companies pendulum swings back and forth. All the Disney parks have amazing music departments, but for this particular time, they didn't want to do the other stuff. And that provided us 3 or 4 years of constant work with one client, which began to scare us. Because as much as we love Disney and working with all them, it becomes, what happens if they get mad at us or if they go a different way or whatever. So we started branching out and everything after that. We've had the privilege of actually being involved in opening 8 of the major theme parks in the last 30 years. We worked on Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios Japan, Disney California, Tokyo, Disney Sea, SeaWorld Aquatica Park, Discovery Cove, Universal Beijing, and the latest one, Epic Universe. So we've had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things with a lot of great people, meet a ton of people. We've also been very honored that the TEA Awards has honored us with 15 TEA Awards over the years, which we're very proud of and honored to be part of this great organization. So with that, I'm going to jump into, we have a behind the scenes video of a show we did at Universal Studios Japan a few years ago. It was a holiday show. It's on a really big stage that holds, it's in their Gramercy Park area. So it holds about 5,000 people, and the stage is about a block long, and they were projection mapping, and it was quite a big thing. We did our usual process. There was a show director, the executive vice president, who was they're all in this video, and the producer all came to Otte by the Bay, and we did what we call a routining session, where we just get in a room and they've got the concept of the show, but we start figuring out what the music is. I mean, everybody comes in with ideas, and we have brought our arranger in, kind of putting different combinations together, different ideas, collaborating all over the place. And by the end of I think probably 4 days long, we had what we believed was going to be the show. At that point, we demoed everything and went through all the process, the approval process, and which culminated, at least for the orchestral side of us, recording this with the Vienna Symphony in Vienna. So I will, if I can get my screen to share, I will play you this little deal we have here and talk about it in a minute. Sorry, let me see here. There we go.
We found that in Japan, romance is a very important part of the Christmas season. And so we always try to weave a little bit of a love story into each of our Christmas shows. And we've done that again this year for our new Crystal Christmas show for Universal Studios in Osaka, Japan.
It's about the promise at the Christmas time, the two little kids making promise. Then this promise come true.
They lose each other for some time. They meet up again as adults, and their romance begins, and as they remember each other, and that's kind of the moment of the main driving force of the show.
We have wonderful composition and orchestration by Alan Silva, the music production handled by Audio by the Bay from California, and together with many other artists around the world, we've created another wonderful story, and the music becomes really the foundation of the show.
There was one original song, and most of them it's all based on Christmas carols. It's a Christmas show.
The style and the color of the music for this is kind of a blend between rhythm section and a traditional orchestra, blending them together to give us the right feeling, the right timbre. This show's a little bit different, that Kaori had quite a big story to tell. To do a show like this that's very romance-based and very holiday-based, to engage the audience was quite a musical challenge.
Once we got the music, we are going to start our rehearsal in October, then the show is open in November.
I want the audience to feel each person is very special, and I want the audience to think about first love and first kiss. I feel that was very, very special.
So that, yeah, thank you. That, I mean, it was a big project. That's a total blast. Like I said, everybody that was on there was in this routine meeting, which is kind of hilarious because it's just a total creative space where everybody's throwing out everything they can, and it does end up with that. If I can, let me see here, I'll share one more time. I think I've got some photos I can share real quick. So this is the stage. This is just some photos from the on-site. They actually flew angels up on the roof. This is an on-site of everybody on-site at the same time, which could be a whole different conversation. And the cast, as we do this as well, we also at the end rehearse the cast and give notes and all that, and help the live mixers kind of put this all together, because they do have live singing. This particular show, they threw a little bit of curveball at us. They wanted an opera singer in it, so we had to write for an opera singer. As Brian was noting, there's always something that, you know, it gets thrown at you, but it becomes a musical challenge to get. And then lastly, I would just wanted to touch for a second before I give it back to Joe. Charlie wanted us to talk about our philosophy of our business. So for us, as Joe said earlier, we love music. I absolutely love music. It's my life. It's what we do. And to make a living at this is an incredible thing. We're kind of feel like we're music first. We are a little different, that we've never had a marketing department. We've never had salespeople. We've just kind of done this thing through hopefully having a good reputation, meeting people, relationships, which everybody on this panel knows. And it's just been 30 years of word of mouth, which has been, again, something we're grateful for. And hopefully if you just do good work, I mean, when I was being a musician, I wanted to be better than everybody else. Probably wasn't, but that was the goal. And the goal here is to just do work that you're proud of, work to the best of your possible ability, no matter what you're getting thrown at you. And then I think if you do that, you'll get work and be able to do this kind of stuff. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Joe, because I know time's getting short, and I will be quiet. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, and just to put a bow on that one, I think as Charlie started this whole thing talking about the music, language of music, and I think that show specifically transcended language and really drove home the idea that music is a universal language. So, but But with that said, I'd like to talk about, well, first of all, I'd talk about my journey. Like everyone else, I started as a musician as well. I started playing saxophone when I was in 6th grade, played through high school, did marching band, went on to college, got my degree in saxophone performance. And like Brian, I was performance focused. I thought that's what I was going to do, and played in bands, played all over the place. And in fact, I actually started playing in theme parks. So my experience in theme parks goes back 30 years as a performer, first and foremost. I also did dabble in audio mixing at that time too, while I was in college. And my experience as well was playing in different bands, you know, and also did some pit orchestras and some musical theater. And I really, to this day, pull from those experiences of the theater and the theatrics and being a performer. And it's really helped me in show production, especially working with show directors, choreographers, and being able to speak a common language with them when it comes to producing these shows. I think I understand why they need extra music to get people on and off. I understand why they might need this or that. And so that's one thing that I pull from my experience. Late in the early 2000s, I had I was able to go to Universal Studios Japan, and when they had just opened in their second year, and perform in the Blues Brothers show. And it was during this time that I met Bob, actually. And I had already started getting more into production and recording myself and whatnot, but I knew I had wanted to move on to the other side, like Bob said. And it was this meeting that led me to Otte by the Bay. I talked my way into a paid internship to in fact, produce some BGM for the SeaWorld expansion, the waterfront expansion back in 2003, 2004. And then from that point on, I stuck around and I started learning all the ins and outs and every corner of this business. And I've done everything from, like I said, BGM loops to voiceover announcements, soundscapes, and then finally, you know, along the way, really learned my craft of producing and recording and mixing. And now I've, you know, moved on to doing, you know, large stage shows, parades, and all the other massive shows that we end up getting privileged to do. So with that said, though, I'd like to touch on another aspect of our business, and that's sound design, but also on-site integration. I think that's one of the most unique aspects of what we do in themed entertainment. And it also is the one question I get the most from family and friends is, why am I always flying around the world to these theme parks? And the reality is, because no matter what, and this goes back to what Howard said, Howard can do his job perfectly, but no environment in a theme park or in a museum or in any space like that is ever going to translate the same as a music studio. And so really what our job is that final step is to take the audio that we produce, the music that we record, the orchestra and everything, and take it and go and be in the space, whether that's a theater, whether that's an attraction, it could be a hallway, it could be a ride vehicle, or, as Brian knows, it could be a bathroom, as we've been known to sit in bathrooms and mix and equalize and adapt the audio to the environment so that it translates the best that it can, and so that the true spirit of what was conceived and designed comes through for the audience experience. And so on one of those, I'd like to talk about a project that we worked on recently, and this is also was fun because I got to work on it with Charlie Otte and THG, and this is a project for the National World War II Museum. The project's called Beyond All Boundaries, and it's an immersive 4D experience film attraction that was narrated by Tom Hanks. And it really tells the story of the United States experience in World War II from Pearl Harbor through the end of the war in 1945. And the show combines archival footage, CG imagery, practical effects, lighting effects, sound design, obviously, and a very immersive experience for the audience. It really brings them into the intensity of war. We originally did this project in 2009, and so this is a kind of a unique experience to go back 16 years later and revisit it. And so this whole attraction was refreshed this year. The theater was refreshed, the CGI was updated, the speaker system was updated, and while the speaker system was robust before, and it was kind of a basic 5.1 system, they've expanded it now to a 29 channel system. allowing for a much more immersive soundscape. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let's see if I can do it this way. Share this right here. So this is a speaker layout, something that, and this goes back to a little bit of a conversation with Howard's portion in terms of interacting with other disciplines. And I think that's another thing that on-site mixing allows us to do is to interact with lighting, video, animatronics, practical effects, and to make sure that we're all in sync with each other. And working with the system designers, and this is how they can help us. And this is what I got from the original system designer, which was Forward Thinking Designs, a partner of ours. And this shows you all the speaker channels, and these are all individually addressable, and which makes it really easy for us to create a surround environment, an immersive environment, because I can send any sound to any one of these speakers. And while we're on the topic, I'd like to share one more real quick thing. And this is just a funny thing. Let's see, where is it? I think this picture epitomizes what it means to be an on-site mixer. Sitting.
That location looks pretty familiar there, Joe.
I bet you know where that is, Howard. But this is the epitome of on-site mixing, alone in the middle of a street in a theme park. But enough with that.
Yeah.
What was that, Bob?
That's great.
Well, it's being built. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I'd really like to get onto is I'm going to show now a clip from Beyond All Boundaries. And this clip is taken from the War in the Pacific and the Japanese kamikazes. And the video you'll see has two layers to it. The top layer, the bottom layer is the original CGI, and the top layer is the updated CGI. And although you won't hear a lot of the immersive sound, you'll still hear all the elements that make this up. And I think it's still revealing, and I think it's still a good indicator of how this works. Let me share. I share this first, and here. All right, here goes.
The Japanese call them the Divine Wing, kamikaze, a noble name for what are suicide bombers. The Japanese fly over 4,000 targets. 36 ships go down, over 360 are damaged.
Cool. So that's the clip from the movie, and I thought it would be fun too to just pop through real quick and just show you how that's all built, just from a sound design perspective. So much like a film, I built the sound effects in groups of types of sound, and I'll start with the background. So this is just sort of a background of distant war sounds, bombs, tanks, bombs and planes and whatnot, and it sort of just creates the overall atmosphere. And I'll play that for you real quick, just a little bit of that. So that really just sounds like, a war going on. And then up here we have the cannons. These are more of the cannons like that are shooting off the ship.
And I'm going to add, Joe, there was a foreground element, actually scenic element that came out, part of the 4D, an actual AA gun that was in the foreground, which was dimensional. So
yeah, thank you for adding that. And another note on these sound effects, which was a unique thing to this project in terms of when we talk about challenges, and all of these sound effects had to be approved by the museum and be historically accurate to what they were. So we couldn't, as much as we wanted to make it immersive and theatrical and like a movie, we had to be historically accurate, and all these had to be approved. So that was a challenge in and of itself. These are more, I think, all the guns, prop guns. Yeah, these are the at gun, like that Charlie was talking about. And then finally, I have the planes, and this is where I was able to get pretty creative with. And although you couldn't hear it in the video on Zoom because it's stereo, but that plane that flies over the deck of the ship, I had panned from like the audience over their shoulder, across over their heads through the ceiling speakers, and then into the screen. So that's just a little look at a sound design project and integration. And if we have time, I don't know how we're doing, Charlie. I can pause here, or I can talk about one more thing, but it's up to you.
You got 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. I'll do it quickly. Just to tie it all together with integration and collaborating with different disciplines. Part of the cool thing about this theater was that the seats have movers in them, and they're called rumble seats, or they go by different names. And working with Forward Thinking Designs and specifically Corbin Westcott, who was their on-site guy, we had to work and find ways to. Let me start again. The seats were originally triggered by a different control system, but this time they're controlled by audio. So we worked together and to find out what kind of audio and how much level and what would trigger them the best to get the best experience and the best experience for the audience. So we went back and forth. Testing different things, testing different levels, and part of what why this all comes together is it just really enforces the fact that you have to be in the venue to do this. Like, it's nothing I could do at home. I couldn't do this from a studio. You really have to be sitting in a seat, testing this out and going, yep, that's too much. Yep, that's perfect. And yeah, that matches with what I'm seeing on screen. So I think that's just puts a bow on why the on-site experience is so important to our industry. And with that, I will turn it back to Charlie, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. So I'd like everybody to give a big round of applause for our panel here. Everybody, it's been a really great group. Quickly, yes, I'll as you guys know, my name is Charlie. I know a lot of these guys. I also am a musician. Oddly enough, which is probably part of the reason that I wanted to do this panel in the first place. I think, without going into too much detail, I think music and sound make a huge difference. That everything that is done in our industry, as you could tell probably from the way I introduced things originally. Originally, we were probably going to talk about what the process is, but I think since we don't have a lot of time left, maybe we'll open this up to questions and answers. And let people ask us if they have any questions about what they've heard or about any projects or anything like that. And I'm not quite sure how we do questions and answers, but I know we can. Ken, are you there?
Yeah, hi. Any questions can just come in the regular chat, and then we can just grab them from there. That's usually the easiest.
Oh, okay. Any chats? Any questions? Or maybe
I had a question while everyone else is getting their fingers warmed up to type. Just about curious to know from you guys. Everyone always wants to be in the room early, and how early does that really mean? Like, what's the best way? I know, budgets allowing, you certainly have the whole team, from day one, so you could really develop an experience with full on integrated sound. Like, what would you guys say is your sweet spot of letting a little bit of an idea gel and then but it still being in early enough that you can have a real impact?
Oh God, I'd say as early as possible. We love getting involved early. We realize we may not be producing or creating at that point, but just to be at the table in that initial creative conceptual stage, where we can at least be talking about how is audio going to impact the experience or the project, because there's so many different steps that have to be taken throughout that initial conceptual stage where you're even talking about AV and design and how you're going to what kind of type of equipment are you going to purchase? Well, the creative that we create as musicians and composers and sound designers here really impacts that hardware decision process, and it's so important to get our teams involved as early as possible just to have an overall discussion and really start thinking about audio because again, I mean, we always look at it as audio is 50% of the experience. I mean, you see things visually and then you hear things, and it's such an important part of that emotional drive for an experience. So having the early discussions is always great. And again, we can always come in early and then step back for a little time as things start to develop, and then come in when we're needed again. So it's great just to be part of that whole integrated overall creative process.
Totally agree. Howard and I were joking, or not joking, we were reminiscing the other day about Universal Beijing. Started our first meeting he talked about was in 2016 and opened in 2021. So a lot of these things at the outside for us would be 5 years, which if you're doing a large part of theme parks is great. Shows are little, like the entertainment shows, like the one I played, the little case study was that probably happened in 4 months. A little longer is usually nicer. I mean, 6 months is great. 9 months could be great, but they can happen as little 3 months, but as long as 5 years. And as Brian said, the earlier are, the more chance you have of making an impact all around for all areas, not just music. And I would say 75% for audio is where we think it should live, but we're a little biased.
I see a question from Nora in there that she said, when you're doing an AV setup, it's bouncing around a little bit. Basically, let me grab it back a little bit here. She said, when you're doing AV, basically, is it more of a tertiary skills or role where people just do that? Well, from a technical side, what I've typically seen is, people of integration things, or they get into the technical side, learning about, say, installing equipment on site, building racks, connecting things up. And typically on the integration side, there will be AV design and integration companies that will have full teams of installers, rack fabricators, people that terminate cable, go to site and terminate things. So on the entertainment side or the maintenance and operation side, they'll have people like at Universal, they'll have a whole entertainment division that does shows and all sorts of other things. And then they'll also have people that maintain all the equipment. So there's many vendors and many people involved, from the design piece to the installation piece to the operating it, maintaining it, and doing daily shows. And sometimes there's temporary setups or changes or reconfigurations. So Nora, I don't know if that answers your question, but there's a lot of opportunity. Everybody in the AV world is always looking for good people. So you should investigate that further if you're interested in AV. And I'm speaking from the hardware side. So.
I see another question here from Roxy. Although I'm sure it depends from project to project, when working with a company with a pre-existing catalog, how often are you pulling from that catalog, and how often are you creating your own media? I mean, both Disney and Universal's now have pretty large catalogs, especially on the Disney side. There is so much material there, but when we're certainly using their songs for the shows, but we're rarely using their masters. I don't know if everybody knows the difference. The song is the actual creation IP, the master is the recording. For a lot of the shows that we're doing in theme parks, we're rearranging them. We are sometimes making medleys out of them. Sometimes, just doing dance breaks where there weren't before. So we rarely, although it happens for background music, but we rarely use the actual masters from any of these things. And then often sometimes they'll tie the whole thing together with the original song, depending on what the show is. Brian, you have same with you guys, or?
Yeah, I think so. It's really the same. I mean, we're doing the same. I mean, I could answer that pretty much exactly as you did, Bob. So that's pretty much what we're doing. And you know, sometimes, yeah, when IP is involved, there's different constraints, some different rules depending on the IP. So you're just kind of navigating that, and that's part of the process of, you know, utilizing companies like all of us here to be a partner in that process and really kind of help steer that through the creative process when dealing with catalogs and IP.
And, you know, I see a follow-up kind of question from Nora, which kind of leads also into a question from Danny that I'll jump into kind of from a integration perspective. Nora asked, is it a skill worth pursuing? And, you know, my view is if with anything, and I'm sure everybody on this call, you know, if it's something that you like doing and you're passionate about, you know, it doesn't have to be, the next step doesn't have to be where you retire from, but it can be a step in the right direction that you feel good about learning things. And I know a lot of the companies have lots of room for growth and changing. You know, hey, I started doing this, learned a lot of cool stuff, and then realized, hey, I could go do this other role at that company or another company. And when you do theme parks, you meet a lot of great vendors and a lot of great people, and you network and get to, you know, you really build a lot of relationships. And spilling into Danny's question, you know, what skills you develop as a musician, carry over to coordination, project management to complete projects. I'll start really almost stupidly simple. You know, when I was a teenager, and this is a long time ago, and playing in a band, and we were all in school and all that, it just so happened, and I ended up having a phone in my room, and the band was like, "Great, you'll be the leader of the band and talk to like the booking agents and all that." I'm like, I'm like 15, whatever. But the point I say is, it's like I learned fundamentals of project management, especially in themed entertainment and artistic and creative worlds, playing in a band and trying to sort out, okay, when are we rehearsing? Does everybody know when we're rehearsing, what we're working on? Do they know when our gig is, when to show up, what we're supposed to wear, when we're supposed to be there? Do they have directions before GPS and stuff? And that just coordination, almost like a mother hen kind of a, hey, does everybody know what they're doing? And that extra attention to just follow up in detail just continue to grow. You know, I added knowledge about the technology and then experience about AV and things like that. But fundamentally, it's still like, hey, is everybody on the same page? Do we know what we're doing? What do we do? What do we need to do when? What do we have to deliver when? Does everybody else know what's going on? Are we in sync with everybody else? It's, to me,
Yeah.
it's
And
kind of
I'll
an extension of those fundamentals.
and I'll add in on the other side of that, you know, having not been a professional musician the way these guys did, although maybe you know, my career could have gone that route, whatever. It was all those things that I learned as a musician when I was young have served me well as a producer and as a writer and a coordinator and a creative director and things like that on the other side, because there's so much about, you know, rhythm and music and understanding and things coming together and communicating with words, without words. And so much of this, I think, is important just developmentally when you then go on to work in other capacities with people. And even, you know, kind of Howard was talking about playing with a band. There's a lot you can learn about people when you play music with them, and you all of a sudden understand them on another whole level, and you know, another whole personalities come out, and
Just don't date the lead singer.
there you go. So it's you know, I
Yeah.
think it's a very
And
great
you
thing.
learn to get along. Learn to get along with people of styles and tastes and
Charlie, was it okay if I take this Sebastian question?
You bet.
Yeah, so Sebastian asks, how do you approach simulating or approximating your sound design or music for a physical space in a studio environment when the speaker layout in its show building might be wildly different? That's a great question. And it's, you know, the best you can do at this point is try to have a surround type setup of speakers in your studio. You know, that's one way to get started, is to have that. But even so, even with just a stereo pair, I mean, I kind of just, you know, you can fake it by, you know, putting things in mono and seeing what they sound like. Because a lot of times in some of these environments, your point sourcing stuff, you're doing stuff in mono anyway, and so a single speaker, so you can kind of approximate levels and stuff. But again, this gets back to what I was talking about earlier. I mean, you really at some point have to be in the space, and that's ultimately the thing. There's a lot of technology now with virtual plugins that approximate spaces, and you can create speaker layouts and virtual speaker layouts and whatnot, and those are all great, and those can get you halfway there. But ultimately for us, it's being in the space, because that'll change. And Brian, you can add to that if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such an important part of this. I mean, oftentimes in projects there can be value engineering that comes in, and let's cut something, and maybe we should cut the on-site mix. But like you said, Joe, I mean, on-site mix is such an important part of this process, because it's hard to simulate that. And there's some great software tools. We have an Atmos room in one of our studios where we can really work to move things around as best we can. But until you're in that space and the acoustics of the space, it might have high ceilings, it might have reflective surfaces everywhere. You can't completely simulate that, fully until you're in the space. And I think, oftentimes in these projects, we rather have more time on site than in the studio if we can. So if there's a option there, we definitely would take more time on site.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, and it's funny because even if you have an approximation, like a left and a right speaker, you go into the space and the left one's at 12 feet and the right one's at 3 feet, and it totally changes everything you did, and and the perception of how that comes, or all of a sudden there's a set piece in front of a speaker or whatever, and that changes everything. So, but yeah, like you said, having an Atmos set up, something that you can approximate is great to get you part there. But really, it's being in the space, and that's really gonna get you to the end.
And that's one thing that's really changed is on-site time. I mean, back in the days, we used to budget 4 days for any kind of stage show or whatever. We get in and get out there, stereo systems. But now with the entire immersive thing that's going on, and the expectation of what everybody's expecting, just because of what everybody's done, you can be there a long time.
Yeah.
And I've always looked at it like, in the cinema world, there's specific standards for the audio and mixing it and delivering it to cinemas all over the world,
right?
Because it's an example of, they want it to be cookie cutter so that it can be recreated as accurately as possible. The specific, whether it's THX, Dolby, Atmos, even IMAX, they have certain standards for building their theater and their systems that you could draw. But we're not at all plug and play. Themed entertainment, literally almost every venue is unique and purpose built. Almost none of them are plug and play. They're all unique one-offs unto themselves. So the best studio in the world can get close, but still needs to account for the physical space, the physical acoustics, and the real environment, especially with guests and ambient noise of the space or rides or what have you.
That's a great point, because we actually do a lot of work in traveling exhibits, and so the idea is, or people think that while you've mixed it once in the initial space, we can just we're going to move it to a new location, and we'll just use your same mix. Sometimes that works if it's the exact same kind of setup, but if you're dealing with different ceiling heights and placement of that room, it really needs to be remixed again to make sure it's adhering and working with the space, the new space that it's in.
Yeah. One extra thing I will point out, just in terms of from a technical standpoint, I mean, you can do yourself a favor by buying speakers that translate well and that very well, and that are very neutral and flat. And I see the Genelec behind Brian there in the studio, and that Genelec is known for that, to be in the industry, and a lot of people in our world use them because we find that the translation when you go to the parks works very well. I mean, short of having, like Howard would laugh at this, but I mean, you could try to have speakers that you can find in the theme park or the environment in your room, but it's probably not going to happen. So finding something that translates well is going to get you a lot farther along. And so that's another thing you can do, even if it's just a stereo pair. At least if you know what that mix sounds like, you're going to be much better off once you get into the field.
Okay, so thank you, Joe, and thank you everybody. I'm going to give you all one last word, but we've gone over a little bit, but I know everybody likes to chat. Anybody one last comment? Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's a little after 5:30, so we've gone over just a little bit, and I know everybody's going to want to do some stuff, and I really appreciate this great panel. You guys have just been fabulous. So thank you very much. And Ken, I'll just turn it back over to the TEA.
Yeah, hey, want to say thanks again to everyone, our panelists. You guys are awesome, and also to the great audience and good questions. So, it's all about what is it? The sound is the heartbeat of every attraction. I think we all saw that for sure today. So, thank you so much. And as always, these sessions are archived on YouTube. So, feel free to check back in if you want to check on anything later, and of course, reach out to our panelists if you have any questions in the future on your projects. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, everyone.